Here we are. So, welcome to our LinkedIn Live today, and I hope that everyone's doing well. My name's Thad Hollis, and I'm a mediator and a divorce coach. I've been doing mediation for over 30 years, and I've been coaching people through divorce. I became an accredited divorce coach 3 years ago. I'll put it that way. It's always been part of the practice of mediation was to help people find a solution. But I decided that I wanted to get the credentials and become accredited in this field because one of the things that we get to mediation, parties have already established their positions. As a divorce coach, I can help people unpack some of these things. So today, the idea of what we're going to be talking about is a simple question. It's a simple question with a lot of complexity behind it. I want to separate, who do I call? A lawyer, a mediator, a divorce coach. Now, each of those hats, people have a different role to play in the separation process. I'll just pick on the lawyer for a minute because the lawyer is there to give you legal advice and help you navigate what it is that you need to know in terms of law and what your rights are, whether you're a de facto relationship or you're actually married, and what those might mean. This isn't about making the decision to separate, but it's just understanding what your rights are. A mediator is someone that's there to help the parties facilitate that negotiated outcome. So, a mediator is there to guide the parties through the process. There may be a lawyer involved, there may be a lawyer in the background, there may be a lawyer to help review. Always recommend that you do that if you get an agreement. But a mediator is that impartial party to give an unbiased assistance to the parties trying to navigate a separation and come up with an agreement. And finally, a divorce coach. And that's what we'll be focusing primarily on today is the divorce coaching side of things. Is a divorce coach isn't there to say, okay, here are your legal rights, here's what's going to happen. As a divorce coach, I work with one party. Um, I ask questions around, so tell me what's going on for you. Help me understand where you're at. So, you as an individual who are thinking about separating, this is an opportunity to talk to a divorce coach. What's going on? Are we having a blip in the relationship? Is this something that's been going on long term? Is there a problem here that you can refer to a counselor and get some therapy around it? Or is there something that is deeper that's underlying? So, questions that I ask are going to be around safety. So, how safe do you feel with your partner or spouse? What goes on when you have a discussion? How does it escalate? Is it calmly discussed? Is there an underlying current that actually bothers you? What would it look like if you could actually get resolution? How would you actually communicate? How would you be able to do that? Is there a level of respect between the two of you? And respect is on many levels, but basically, do you feel honored? Do you feel loved? Do you feel whole? Do you feel that you can be heard? And it doesn't have to, and there are times when we do that better than others. Okay. So don't feel that because it doesn't happen every time, it's a failure. It's something that happens as best we can. We're human. So sometimes we're not always in the listening mode. Sometimes we just want to dump. So the questions that I ask is how is that all going to be rolling and how's the commitment going to look? So, you know, one of the questions isn't going to be should you leave or should you go? It's going to be so how is this traveling for you? How are you looking at things could work for you? How do you think you could navigate that? What do you need to know in terms of making plans around the kids? What do you need to know in terms of your rights around these things? What do you need to know in terms of what do you want to know about your property? So, those are some questions that, for instance, we can now work on to ask a lawyer. And so, if you're thinking about separating, the time to do that is to come talk to a divorce coach like myself or anyone that you feel is a trusted counselor, someone that you can talk to on a one to one basis about getting some of the emotions understood, getting some of the feelings understood, getting some reality testing before you make that leap into, okay, we're getting divorced, we're separating, we're doing all of this, and now I'm going to go to court. Doesn't work that way. Slow down, take a breath. We're going to work through this. I always encourage my clients to get legal advice. It's always best to know, where do you stand? What do you know about your rights? What would happen if you moved out? What would happen if you stayed? Can you separate while still living under the same roof? Where do the kids go? How do the kids cope with this? Right? Those are some legal aspects. In terms of how to communicate with the kids, I can work with that. But the legal side of things, what are your rights, is something you really want to talk to a lawyer about. Get clarity around what would happen if you moved out. Get clarity as to, what does a property division look like, right? Um, so, it's, what would a parenting plan look like? What is the normal in a parenting? And that is very determined by the age of the kids. And a family lawyer can really help clarify a lot of those issues under law, so that you know what you know. Folks, information is always important. Understanding where you stand and where you're going in a direction is really important. And that's where the collaborative approach, working with a divorce coach and a lawyer, can help you get that. Your lawyer is there to tell you what your legal rights are, what the law says. A divorce coach is there to help you navigate the emotions, how to do the communications. What do you need to say? How to deregulate those emotions when they start to overwhelm you. Now, I do sessions with clients, on a weekly basis or bi-weekly, depending on what they need. But I also ask them to check in with me, because you may get that one text which is triggering. And rather than responding, take the opportunity to breathe and say, what would that say? Let me check. So that's what the idea of having that. We can work through the stress. What happens with long-term incompatibility? What's that about? What do we want to talk about in terms of getting a plan in place? Because short-term incompatibility and long-term incompatibility are two different things. We're incompatible because right now we're both under very stress. There's a new job, we just moved house, the kids are in new schools. There's a lot of factors. Do you still love each other? Do you feel respected? What's your communication like? It's not working so well? Okay, so what does that look like? Let's go through what is all that about. And that's what I'll do as a coach. Jumping right into, let me go get a lawyer and talk about I'm leaving, is a reactive response to something that may only be temporary. But you won't know that until you have the opportunity to explore. But now let's just say we're now at the position where this isn't something that is short term, that this has been long term. I'm not going to talk about domestic violence or things like that. Because that's another discussion for another time. That could be a full session that could take a half a day. Talk about what happens in domestic violence. What are the nuances? What do you do? But let's talk about, it's just some incompatibility. Communication is broken down. You're not feeling respected. The commitment is, like that. So you're thinking, do I stay or do I go? Because making a decision to stay for the kids is never going to be good. The kids are resilient. They'll be fine as long as the two of you can navigate how to do that. So now we're going to talk about what you need as an adult here. And that's where I'll be coming in and saying, okay, let's talk about some basic things here. What are you doing in terms of managing your stress? How are you communicating? What do you need to be looking at? And then the next thing is, have you consulted with a lawyer? Well, let's get that done. Let's agree that you're going to book an appointment with a family lawyer. And with that family lawyer, we'll work on what the specific questions you need to ask, so that you can come out of the session fully informed as to what your next steps could be. It may mean that you look at it and say, well, maybe I don't need to separate, or maybe I'll be separate living under the same roof. Maybe it makes sense for me to move out. Financial circumstances and a whole bunch of other factors come into being. Ages of the kids may be a factor. But talking to a lawyer will give you some clarity as to what could be the next best step. And then, so let me just remember one more thing here. Just because you've gone and consulted with a lawyer doesn't mean you've made the decision to go to court, you made the decision to separate, you made the decision to divorce. or that you need to go and tell your spouse or partner that you've done this. What it does do for you is it gives you information. If you're ready to then talk about what the separation is, talk to me as a divorce coach, or get a divorce coach so that you can then plan how to make that conversation palatable and more amiable than it would be otherwise than as a direct confrontation. But this is all about gathering information. So once you've done that and you've sought advice, you've got a plan, you've got some ideas where you want things to go, the next stage is let's talk about what that is, how the living arrangements work, what the next steps are. And you gather information, the lawyer, and if you now decided that you need to separate, you can make a plan with your lawyer. We can work together as a coach. We can talk about the emotions that you're going to manage, the communications you're going to manage, and the lawyer can work with you as to next stages. Once you're at that point where you're now ready to talk about putting together a plan or now negotiate something, that's when you reach out to a mediator. Now, as a mediator, and I'm an FDRP in Australia, which means I'm a family dispute resolution practitioner under the Family Law Act. My role is to help the parties navigate and negotiate a plan. Now, we have some standards and we have some things that we get from the legislation, and I'm not going to go into that because that's what lawyers do. As a mediator, I can also guide you through some of that process and tell you what to expect in a mediation. So I will then do an assessment as to whether the mediation is appropriate as a mediator. I'm no longer talking as a coach here. I'm talking now as the mediator. So we've had the coaching. We made the decisions that, yes, we want to separate, booked an appointment with the lawyer, got some legal advice, understand what your rights are. You're still working with your coach, but now you want to go talk to a mediator about how do we get to an agreement. And that now the mediator will do what we call an intake. They'll have a session with you to talk about what's going on. Is it appropriate to have mediation? Is it appropriate to do it online? Is it by telephone? Is it going to be in person? There's a whole bunch of things that as a mediator we want to ascertain. Is it safe? And your safety is important. And then we're going to remind you that as parents, this is about the welfare of your children, and their safety and well-being is going to be paramount in any discussion that we have going forward. So this is what starts to evolve as we go through the process. So deciding to separate isn't just like, okay, I'm packing my bags, I'm moving out. There's, how do I talk to my kids? How do I talk to my partner? What happens when my in-laws, who I'm very fond of, suddenly goes, what's going on? What happens when my parents or my siblings suddenly go, what's going on? We really like your partner, spouse. That's what a coach can help with. The lawyer will help you with the aspects of the family law and the property that's important for you to understand what your rights are there. A mediator will help you with the segment of negotiating an outcome in terms of that piece of how to get an agreement. Mediator isn't there to give you advice or to say, well, what do you think? Mediator will ask a lot of questions, but doesn't coach to the degree that a divorce coach will, because I'll help you get behind the scenes as a divorce coach. As a mediator, we'll keep it very clean in terms of, so we'll do some reality testing. We'll do some back and forth to help figure out where's the best outcome in terms of that. We may be your lawyers present in the room or on Zoom, depending on how you want to do this, or on telephone. So there's all of these factors come into place to help you figure out the best way to navigate one of the most trying and difficult circumstances that we go through as human beings. Making the decision to leave is traumatic. It's traumatic for the person finding the information out for the first time. It's traumatic for the person making the decision. There's grief, there's fear, there's anger, there's disappointment, there's hurt, there's unrequited commitment that doesn't quite get across. There's a lot of things that go on, and a divorce coach can help unpack that. A lawyer can help tell you what you need to do, and a mediator can help you negotiate that outcome to get to that better outcome. So with all of those things that are going on, I want to separate. Who do I call? A lawyer, mediator, or divorce coach? I'm going to tell you, you need all three. but a divorce coach can help set, so it helps set the foundation. So look at it this way. You're thinking about, I'm going to use the analogy of building a house, right? So you've decided that you now want to take a step. You've decided on, this is what I want to do. So you go to a divorce coach, and a divorce coach helps you make the plan. You then go to your lawyer and say, well, what does my foundations look like? What do I need to build? What do I need to build on? And then the mediator helps you with the floor plan, so you now know what the plan looks like. So each of us have a hat or a role that's different. As a coach, I help you make a decision. A lawyer will help you, and I'm not a lawyer. A lawyer will help you make the foundation of where you need to be going. And a mediator will help you make that plan. And then as a coach, we'll work together afterwards to help how to make that plan sort of work in reality. And I mean sort of, because there's never 100%. What you can agree in a parenting plan or even in a court order, there's some realities, and you got to try and capture those nuances. And how do we communicate? How do we talk? How do we do this post-separation? So a divorce coach can take you right through the whole thing, soup to nuts. A lawyer helps you with the process of getting the foundation. A mediator helps you get an agreement. A divorce coach encompasses the beginning to helping you get to the other side of this with hope, dignity, and everything still intact. Is that there's always going to be an end and there's always a future. So, folks, those are some of my thoughts. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm always available through admin@betteroutcomes.au. That's the email address. Look up the website, betteroutcomes.au. And if you have anything that you want to reach out or any questions, I always do a complimentary call. Never 15 minutes. It's going to be a little longer than that. So be prepared to spend about 30 minutes to have a chat with me. And we can talk about what you need in your next stage. Is this an appropriate time to bring in a coach? Is this an appropriate time to talk to a lawyer? Or you're already at the stage where you can use a mediator and get through a plan, and I can help you with that side of it as well as a divorce coach. What do you do after the plan? So I can help you with all the stages as anyone else can, or I may not be the right person for you. So keep in mind that I'm part of a network of other divorce coaches and mediators, and I work with a number of family lawyers, so that I may not always be the right person, but I can certainly help you find someone that can help you. So those are some of the thoughts and ramblings of a divorce coach mediator, that if you have any needs, help, or desires, reach out. I'm always available for a chat, and I'd love to talk and help you find a way through this. And if you're a family lawyer or an accountant or a tax advisor or a family planner or any of these other roles or counselors or any of the things that you may have, and you have anybody that you know that could use the opportunity to have a chat with me, let them reach out or reach out to me, and we can arrange a time that I can do that. Again, admin@betteroutcomes.au or the website, betteroutcomes.au. Thanks very much, folks. Thanks for tuning in today, and reach out. Happy to help.